Okay, crack the perception. Next deep dive, trauma education. Learning about trauma, what it is, what it does. How are you going to escape a prison if you don't even know that you're in one? You're just wired for war. That's the trauma response, being wired for survival, wired for war. And that was me for a while. I didn't understand what it was that was keeping me trapped. I didn't even know where to look. I didn't know anything about trauma. So there was no way forward because I had no idea where I was. And so the goal of learning about trauma, not even your own, but just trauma in general, is that you can see the adaptation that your brain and body instilled in you right after the event to keep you alive. And it's not that you are the things that happen to you. It's just that the way that you live, this traumatic response survival operation that you are right now is just what it is. It's an adaptation and it's not you. And so if you can see the adaptation, if you can map it onto all of trauma as a general, you can bring it into yourself and see where you fit in that. And then you can start to figure out where it is that you live and where it is that your adaptations run you. So let's define trauma. It's not what happened. It's not the childhood sexual abuse. It's not the physical abuse. It's not the death. It's not all these things. It's not war. It's not the event. Trauma is the response and the adaptation that your brain and body had to do to keep you alive. If you didn't go through this traumatic response mechanism, you would just sort of go insane. You might die even. I don't know. I mean, it's just like this overwhelm. And so what happens if you try to hold on to that? Fucking, you just break, you implode, right? And so your body and your mind are wired to keep you alive, obviously. And so what it does is it sends this crazy central nervous system response, very complex, and it's very intelligent, and it just keeps you alive. But what happens is it works then, right after the event. It works to keep you alive then. But if you never learn about it and go back to rewire it, you live the rest of your life in this response that was really only necessary for this one portion of your life. And this is why most people don't even realize the way that they behave the way they do, is because they're still in this trauma response. And many people live their whole life and never realize it and never rewire it. That's the goal to learning about trauma as a whole, is that you can see the patterns of trauma, take those patterns, put them onto your experience, then begin to go in and rewire yourself from the inside with the knowledge, because the knowledge gives language to your prison walls. If you don't know you're in a prison, how are you going to escape? The trauma education gives the language to the walls so you at least know where you are. Okay, so there's a really good, I don't know what his title is. He's the fucking man when it comes to this stuff. And his name is Gabor Mate, and he's got a great framework for basically how trauma works. So I'll read it to you. He says that there's trauma, there's the traumatic event, that leads to system overwhelm, kind of like what I said. And because of that overwhelm, you fragment into different parts to survive. And that's what I said also. If you didn't, you would implode, or who knows. And so you get broken into all these parts, and all these different parts hold on to all these different things just to keep you alive. But it means you're not a coherent self. You're just these broken shards of glass that are barely hanging on. All those parts, the charge, the emotional charge that they hold gets sent into your body to store. So like there's body, mind, and spirit. That makes your whole being. And your mind can't comprehend this traumatic event, so your mind fragments into different parts, and they send all those charges into your body to hold on to. Well, it works for a little bit, but you can't sustain that, and that's the reason for many other things, and we'll get into that later. But that's basically his framework, is you have a traumatic event, leads to system overwhelm, then your mind fragments into parts, and your body holds the charge of all of that stuff. Those fragmented parts, there's a lot of languages to identify what those are. And these are three of the biggest ones that I use to help me. And the first one is, if you think about those fragmented parts, in the internal family systems model, these are the inner world as a collection of protected parts, not a broken self. Same framework, right? You have your body, mind, and spirit. That makes your whole self. And these fragmented parts, these are the collection of protective parts inside your mind, inside the internal family systems model that keep you running at least above death. You could think about it like that. Another one is the classic. It's the Jungian shadow. It's the disowned parts of you that rule your unconscious behaviors. So again, the mind fragments, and inside the mind there's the conscious and the subconscious or the unconscious, and you fragment and you put all these pieces of you into your unconscious so you don't have to look at them, you don't have to think about them, you don't have to feel them. And those rule your behavior. And your subconscious is the puppet master, and what you repress rules you. So everything that's sent there to be locked behind bars is the thing that actually runs the show. And the last way that really helped me was the polyvagal theory. And this is that reactions aren't flaws, they're just automatic survival responses. So this can be things like triggers. And this polyvagal theory was especially helpful when I started to root out triggers. Was that I could see the behavior, but it was so quick, it was so reactive. I'm like, wow, that's so fast that this thing happens and this other thing happens. And I couldn't figure it out until I realized that within the central nervous system, especially within the vagus nerve, which is basically the polyvagal theory, it's this nerve that runs through, it's got fucking all kinds of crazy connections, is that charge that I talked about, the fragmented mind parts, they send the emotional charge into your body. When something hits that charge or elicits a response from all that stored energy, it's just that's already in your nervous system. And so it sends a signal that is correlated to a reaction. And that's triggers. Is like, they happen so quick because it's already coded inside of you. It's coded in your nervous system that when this happens, this charge gets sent, this behavior follows this charge. So that's a great overview for trauma and kind of how things start to work. And again, I can talk about this stuff forever, but you're going to need to do a lot of your own research because there's so much complexity to the world of trauma education that you can study it forever and never end up working on your stuff at all. And so I'm going to give you an overview. I'm going to give you the best bullet points to what I know for the beginning levels of recovery. But if anything hits you at all, fucking go down the rabbit hole on Google and just take it as far as it goes. And that's what it's going to take, really, to learn about this stuff is self-discovery. You can learn from all kinds of people, but if you don't do your own research and try to piece together your own ideas, you're just going to not quite get there. So that's a big piece of advice I have for you. Going back to the trauma framework, the charges in your body. This is the kind of stuff that people think is a mental thing, but it's really a body thing. So this is things like hypervigilance, emotional numbness, intrusive thoughts, and shame spirals. It's all in your body. That stuff is all in your body. This is my whole thing with addiction, is that addictions aren't real. They're just responses to feelings you don't want to feel. And so if you have, and usually people who are addicted have some sort of trauma or a lot of it. And so that your mind fragments because of the traumatic event. You can't hold on to it. This charge goes in your body, and that charge has reflexes, and it has stuff that you don't want to feel. You've sent it into your subconscious. You never want to deal with it. So when you walk through life, remember, you're wired for war and survival here. You're in this crazy, like, hyper survival state, but you have this emotional stored energy that never wants to be seen. And so every time you catch a little piece of facial expression, a movement, a slight energy shift, your body just, the signals from your nervous system just get sent immediately because you're ready for anything. You're ready for war. You're ready to fight. So you got to be there right now. And so your hypervigilance, that's you checking every little detail of your environment. And when one tiny thing changes, now you react because you're ready for war. You're ready. But you don't need to be ready. That's the point. You're not in war. So this is the dysfunction. And the emotional numbness. It's like some of those emotions and those stored energy charges are very, very intense. You're different than a normal person if you have trauma in your past, because an event like in the now that might cause someone to just feel slightly irritated can bring up the entire weight of all the emotional charge of your trauma response. And so you're different from normal people where certain things that just don't mean much can set off your whole system. And you know that. And you might not know it consciously, but you know it subconsciously, which is why you pick things that numb you. Addictions, anything, substances, sleeping, TV, gambling, sex, food, all kinds of shit, right? You know without even knowing that there's this crazy emotional charge just ready to jump out. So instead of just being able to handle slight irritation, slight discomfort, you know there is no slight. And you know that. So you just beat it to the punch with your addictions, and that keeps you numb. That keeps those giant charges from coming out. Again, it's kind of necessary because you don't have the frame to hold that giant charge release, but it's also dysfunctional because now you're addicted to something or many things, and that shows up as negativity in your life or leads to negative things in your life. Intrusive thoughts and shame spirals. It's the same thing. It's all in your body. It's like the suicide thoughts, the intrusive thoughts. It's not that you want to kill yourself. It's just that you know you can't really operate because all this stuff that shouldn't mean that much sends off these crazy signals in your body, and eventually you can't deal with it. You just are like, I can't do this forever. Like, and if this is how it is, like, I can't do this. And maybe, and so that's where intrusive thoughts come in. It's just like, it's you realizing that you can't hold on to this war state anymore or for much longer. And because you can't hold on to it and you don't know what else to do, you're like, well, fucking, I don't know. So there's that. Shame spirals. Look, shame fucking is a tough one. It's ugly. It's really tough. And it's one that took me a long time to really figure out. And it's still a constant process. But shame, at least from my understanding, is like the ugliest feeling you can feel in your body. And usually, for me, it's connected to the trauma. So like, a lot of things can have different webs. Mine is childhood sexual abuse. So anytime there's anything intimate or sexual, that really cuts deep at the core, and the shame piece is really there. And so that is a hard thing to deal with, and it's such an overwhelming feeling that back then, while I was recovering, I would do anything to avoid it. And that's why, like, trauma is the events, it's the response adaptation mechanism, and it's the negative impacts to your life now. And this is the shame spirals hit you in that later stage where it's like, yeah, you have the events and you have the adaptation, but you can't deal with that deep shame feeling at all. And so you'll do anything, whatever it is. You'll be a people pleaser. You'll isolate. You'll be depressed because it's better than being full of shame. And it's ugly. It's ugly, but it's all in your body. And you need to know that because that's how we root it out. So think about it like this, like trauma is the event and your spirit just gets jarred by that. And so it fragments your mind. It starts it hits your whole being because you're fresh before the trauma. So it hits your whole being and then it sends it down into your mind and your mind fragments. It sends it down into your body. So how do you fix trauma? You work from the bottom up. You start with the body, you go into the mind, then you fix the spirit. This is my whole thing. It's like it started top down. You fix it bottom up. That's trauma education. That's trauma recovery right there. Okay, so how it was for me when I started to learn about trauma in this early stage of recovery, in this crack the perception phase. So I had like a lead up where I didn't know anything. I didn't have any of my memories about my childhood sexual abuse until I was 20. Didn't have any of them. But I had a lot of poor behaviors and trauma response mechanisms that played out my whole life. And so when I turned 20, when I got my memories back, I had a crazy week. I was going to kill myself like the next week, and then I didn't. And then basically I got through this jarring initial pressure point, and then it was like, okay, now what? I have no idea where to go. I'm in this prison. I have no language for my walls. Well, I met this woman named Tracy Dimmick. She's, for lack of better words, fucking a grand sensei of trauma and fucking the whole being, body, mind, and spirit all the way through. Super knowledgeable. And she basically gave me the intro to how you work, how your body works, how your mind works, how your spirit works. And the more I learned from her, the more I could start to gather the initial inferences for all the things I was going to have to do to recover. She gave me the full downloads. She gave me the knowledge about the ego, the knowledge about your spirit, emotional intelligence. She gave me the general 101 of trauma education. Like, she gave me it all. And that was, I didn't know any of it beforehand, and I would have been lost forever without that. And so she kind of just like took me and pointed me in a direction, was like, there's all this stuff that you don't know about, start headed in this direction. So then from there, I got set on this, like, I'm super obsessive, so I just was like, I'm fucking doing this. And real quick, I should probably say this, like, I think the reason why I was so successful in my recovery when most people aren't is because I realized from the very beginning I had a choice. And I only had two options to choose from. Option A was not do this all the way, fully 100% committed, and end up like everybody else, miserable until you die, never free. Option B was accept that this is going to take every molecule of your being, this strength, this suffering, it's going to take all of you for who knows how long until you get this done. And you either pick, you want to go all in and have a chance, or you want to go partially in and be in this weird middle ground where you're still trying, which is hard, but also being impacted, which is still hard forever, but you never get free. And I'm like, well, it's an easy choice. For me, it was. I don't know why it's not for other people. For me, it was like, you want your life back or you don't? You pick. If you want your life back, it's going to take everything you got and more. Okay, let's go. That's why I was successful. That mentality right there. So if you can get that somehow, you're going to be fine, because that's what it takes. And it doesn't matter what you know. It doesn't matter the practices that you put into your life, what you do. It doesn't even matter if you're in shape or if you meditate or if you, it doesn't matter. If you don't have the attitude that I will give everything I have and more that I haven't even discovered yet, you're going to be stuck forever. That's the mentality you need. Hey, going back. After Tracy gave me everything to start, I found this document and I went back and looked, and it doesn't exist anymore, or I'd have linked it in this video, but it was basically a document that was written about how sexual abuse impacts like every part of somebody's life, from relationships, from self-image to addictive tendencies to this, to, and I remember I read it one time, and like, it was almost as if somebody took my life and put it on paper and made everything I didn't understand about myself make sense. And I was like, holy shit. All these stories I had told about myself, why I drank, why I was nervous, why I was shy, why I was afraid of intimacy and sexual encounters and all this stuff, and I didn't actually have good reasons for it. I was just trying to figure it out. It just like gave me it all right there. And it didn't heal me, but it gave me the initial knowledge to even know where to go. And so, again, get on Google. Fucking, yes, there's a ton of bad information and you're going to get sent in all kinds of different directions that end up leading nowhere. Okay, so be it. Just keep looking. And sometimes you'll stumble across things that you know are so true that you can't ignore them. And you might not be strong enough to implement them, but at least you know them. And at least you have that experience of feeling that knowledge. And so go on the internet. Just search. Treat Google like it's a friend that won't tell anybody anything. Just type in dumb shit like, this, I am a survivor of blah, blah, blah. This is this behavior. What does this mean? And now with AI, it's actually fucking awesome, because I use this thing fucking every day. And the more you plug in about yourself to this fucking artificial intelligence, like, in fact, I'm going to amend this. If you feel comfortable, plug in everything. Everything you think you know about yourself, plug it into ChatGPT. And then, like, I don't care how long it takes you, hours, days, you do it over the course of a year, plug everything you think you know yourself, everything you think you know about yourself into ChatGPT and ask it questions. Because now it's like, it's smarter than you. And plug your shit in, it has all your data, and then it can draw relatively, if not perfect, conclusions based on what you give it. And that can be super helpful, and it can tell you where to go research from there. Okay, the third thing that helped me really understand trauma in the beginning was this book. It's called Becoming Supernatural. It's by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I really like him. I think people misunderstand him. I think it's not that people misunderstand him, it's that most people that adhere to what he says don't actually do the things he says. And so he gets a kind of a bad rap by the spiritual community because it's like, yeah, you can go to the Joe Dispenza retreats and then fucking, but nothing actually it's the people. It's not Joe. It's the people that don't actually do the work, which is fucking most people. This book rocks. It gives you a spiritual framework for learning about trauma because you can learn about the biology. That's great. Again, we got to start with the body, mind, and spirit. But if you can get a general intro to all three parts, body, mind, and spirit, that's amazing. So for the body part, that's the scientist. That's Gabor Mate. That's, you can look at the chemistry. You can look at the brain pathways, all this stuff. For the mind, that's things like internal family systems, the shadow. And then for the spirit, it's stuff like this. It's Joe Dispenza. Get this book, read it. Might not make sense to you all the way through from the jump. This is where you should start. Becoming Supernatural, Joe Dispenza. Now we're going to go into the symptoms, not the symptoms of trauma, but the symptoms of what's going to happen in your life when you start to learn about trauma. Okay, the first one is that you will realize that trauma shapes your perception of the world. And it's the way that you've seen the world so far is how you think it is, until you start to learn about the background processes that have shaped your perception. That's things like I said, hypervigilance. It's the overanalyzing fucking everything to always make sure that you know your next move or know the next 3 moves, and you know who this person is because you're actually pretty good at emotional intelligence if you don't even realize it. And so you know where they're going to go, and so you beat them to the punch so they can't get here, which makes you uncomfortable and sends the signals up, right? Like, if that makes sense to you, you fucking know what I mean. It's just you're always steps ahead, always. But that takes so much energy. It's the tone and facial expressions, right? Like, this is when I first started this, I remember coming across the term empath, which I hate now, but I'm like, fucking that's me. Like, this is what I do. I can read people fucking super well, and I know what they're gonna say, and I know how they're feeling, even if they're really good at hiding it. Obviously, there's way more, and the fucking empath word got destroyed by the fucking those people, and so I don't use that word anymore. But it's the same kind of concept. It's like, most people who are traumatized are fucking fantastic with people because they're geared for war. Most people are not geared for war, so they're not keyed into every little detail. You are, and so you see it all and you feel it all because you're ready. And that makes you for me, it made me like really isolated because I'm like, well, this person's full of shit. This person's full of shit. You're scared. You're insecure. You're this, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this. And I had created a character because I knew what to do with that character that kept me not looked at. Like, it was well put together, was confident, it was good with people, and a lot of that stuff was genuine, but like, I kept the scared, hurt part way far away, and because I knew people so well, I knew how to craft a person that would be good enough to keep me from getting too much attention. But again, that takes so much energy, and it's not you, so it's like all these things worked when they needed to, but they don't need to work anymore. You don't need that. You can allow yourself to be free if you begin to learn. Along with the perception, central nervous system dysregulation and the worldview distortion that leads to. And it's basically kind of what I said. It's this overactive threat detection. And if I could boil it down, it's basically that the reason why it's not good for you is because it takes so much energy. And if you are working through a recovery process, you might get to the point where you realize, I'm fucking exhausted all the time. I'm always tired because you're using every resource possible to feed this war-ready machine that is only good for a certain amount of time. I mean, think about it. War doesn't last forever. A battle with a fucking hyena in the primal days doesn't last forever. Like, it's all this resource now for this relatively short period of time. It's not supposed to be sustained. And that's why you're exhausted. And that's why your brain doesn't work because you're just so tired and you don't actually You can't interact with the world right because you're just on edge all the time without really realizing it. It just distorts your view of the world because you just are like, you're approaching life ready for battle, whereas everybody else is approaching life just to live. And that's a big difference. Okay, the main symptom, the final symptom, is basically that you realize that your perception shapes your world this way, and you realize that your worldview is distorted because you're just ready for war. But when you really start to learn about these things, your entire identity just kind of starts to crumble. Because it's like, okay, well, if this is just this, then all these other things are fucking nothing. And if this is this, and then like, this doesn't actually mean anything. And what I thought was true about this isn't actually true. So what's true? And just things just start to crumble. And that's good. That needs to happen. Because again, like I said in the last video, you need to separate from the ego, which is really what this trauma response is running on. It's the fragmented parts of your ego, and the ego being the thing that's trying to keep everything together and make sure everything has a form, is that you need to loosen its grip enough, and that feels like losing everything and losing control, to then get to the point where you can dissolve its overreaching power and allow the rest of yourself to come up. And so, yes, it's going to feel like crumbling. It's supposed to. And it's going to get worse. That's why they say it's going to get worse before it gets better. Because it's already bad before you know anything. And then when you learn, it gets worse because everything starts to fall apart. But it needs to fall apart so that you can rebuild it from the ground up, from the body, the mind, and the spirit. Get back to that whole being. Get back to living free. Okay, the dangers of learning about trauma early in a recovery process. Okay, first one, identity collapse. Like I was just saying, sometimes it crumbles so much that you just can't recover. And that's if you just get too much exposure right away, or you're just like so fragile that you can't hold on to it. Again, it doesn't make you weak. Like sometimes you just are that fragile. And so you just collapse. And sometimes you can't recover from that. And there's some people out there, and if you've ever seen somebody that's just collapsed, then you know what I'm saying. Like, that's a possibility. The next one is a healing obsession. Now, I said I was obsessed before, but luckily I didn't fall into the harmful obsession. And that's that when you read things about yourself that are true, that you didn't know they were true beforehand, you get this like validation hit in your body. It's like, I'm seen for the first time. And that's a big hit, and it feels good. And you can get addicted to that. And all you can want to do is get that hit of I'm seen over and over and over. So you just go crazy in the rabbit hole, and you find out every little thing that hits you. It says I'm seen. Finally, someone sees me. Finally, someone sees me. Again, you, especially in the beginning, are operating from your ego. The ego is the thing that needs to feel seen because it needs form. It needs identification with form. Needs identification with this thing that you think is you, and people need to see you. That validates the ego. What you'll learn later on is that there is no you. There's no you to be seen. That's not going to make sense, but it might later on. And so this feeling of I need to feel seen can be good in the beginning, but it can be harmful if unchecked. And then you can chase that high of feeling seen for the first time maybe ever, and that will prevent you from doing any work at all. Next one, unregulated hyper-awareness. You're already hyper-aware before because you're geared for war. The more you learn, the more you realize how much detail there can be to be aware of. And if you aren't paying attention to how hard you're searching for details, you can crank up your hypervigilance and hyper-awareness even more than it already was. And then you can just be like, we were already using way too much energy before, and now you're fucking burning your reserves out because you've now taken this thing that's fucking wired and you've just cranked it up another notch. And if you don't figure out how to monitor that and make sure that you don't do that all the time, you're gonna burn yourself out really fucking fast. Next one, education as avoidance. Similar to the obsession, and I said this in the last video about introspection too, is that learning trauma education and thinking about yourself, introspection, you can do that only and not actually do any work. And it's just like, it's kind of what I said in the last video too, and it's what I'm going to say about the psychedelics video that's coming out soon, is that you can get obsessed with trying to figure out the world before you figure out yourself. And it's a weird timeline because you kind of have to figure out how the world works a little bit to then take that and map it onto yourself and then extrapolate it into the full world. But if you just stay in the world and just figure out how the world works, but never actually bring it onto your experience, you just left yourself behind. And now what do you have? You're still traumatized. You're still run by the puppet master. You're still operating in this survival response. Now you just know a bunch of shit. I wouldn't want that. Just saying. Okay, my favorite part, they never tell you what the fuck to do. I'll tell you what to do. Regulation before reflection. What I mean is you want to find, you can think about it like a ritual, or you can just think about it like this. You want to open and close the container for learning. And because trauma is from the ground up, fixing it is ground up, and you start with the nervous system, you need to prime your warm up your nervous system to learn about shit that will hit you in all these different spots. And so if you just sit down and like you do every day and you just go on the internet and start learning about shit, you're still in that trauma response survival mechanism. You're hardwired. So every little thing's gonna fucking hit you. And I did this where I would just learn shit and I would just get pinged off of shit all the time. And I would come off of like an hour of reading or something. And I'm like, holy fuck, I feel like I just went 10 rounds with Mike Tyson. It's because your nervous system was just already jacked and all you did was just fed it a bunch of times. So regulate your nervous system before you learn and then close it somehow after. Here's how. 3 big ways. Meditation, cold water, and fucking fitness. It's my core messaging always. Meditation, breathe. It's not fucking Master Shifu and oming and shit. Meditation is sitting down, run through a breathwork cycle. I have a video on my channel. Go fucking watch it. Even if it's 5 minutes, just bring your system down a little bit. And when you bring that system down, you leave room for you to experience and learn new things without it fucking re-signaling your whole survival mechanism. Cold water. I could go in for hours about why this actually works biologically, but I'm not going to. You can do your own research. Just take it from me if you trust me. If you think I know what I'm talking about, go fucking cold shower. Like, it doesn't even have to be like a crazy lake plunge or anything. If you're gonna go and sit down and learn about shit, go turn the cold water on your shower, set a timer for 3 minutes, and just fucking get in there and spin around and be freezing for like 3 minutes. It works. Just trust me. Do your own research if you want. I'm not going to make this video an hour long by explaining why it works. Last thing, fitness. Doing hard physical effort brings you out of that kind of survival response because your body has shifted gears. It's like, yes, you're still stressing your system if you're working out super hard, but it's voluntary stress. It's not this involuntary stress of being run by this war pattern. So sometimes when I was in the middle of this, like in the beginning of this, I would go do my fucking crazy intense workout for the day, come back, do some learning, then I would either meditate or I would fucking go in the shower to close the container. Well, you can do it in any order you want. Meditation, cold water, and intense fitness, not just to fucking walk down the street, something intense, okay? One of those things, or many, as the opening of the container, so bringing the system down so we can learn. And then when you're done, you got to close that because you're going to go back to that war response. So close the loop. Again, same thing. One of the 3 things or a combination. Do one to open the container, bring the system down, bring the learning up. And then when the learning goes down, bring the system down again, just so that you create this feedback loop that you bring your system down, new understanding, new awareness, and then bring the system down again, close the loop. And that will just kind of like create this feedback loop in your body and in your mind that you can learn things and not react to them. And the more you can assimilate into your mind without your body fucking doing this shit all the time, the better it will be, because you'll be able to do more and it will make more sense and be more efficient. So open and close the container with meditation, cold water, or fitness. Another tool, separate me from my system. I did this from the jump without even realizing it, even though I knew that this was a good idea. And I used to tell people this all the time, and I correct people still when they say things like this. You don't say, I'm anxious. You say, I have anxious tendencies. My system has anxious tendencies, or my system is anxious right now. I'm not anxious. My system is anxious. Okay, I didn't realize the separation then, but I know it now. Again, there's the separation between the whole self, the witness, and the ego, the thing that creates all this structure out of chaos. And so, whatever it is, depression, traumatized, whatever, it's not that you're traumatized. I'm not traumatized. My system is operating from a trauma response. I'm here. My system is locked in this war pattern. Or, I'm not depressed. My system is depressed, or I have depressive tendencies, or I have the tendency to get depressed here and there. Because this I thing is like an absolute. It's like, I'm depressed. That means you're depressed always, forever, which is not actually that true. Like, even when I was in the worst of it, like, there were still some pockets where I didn't feel all downright terrible. So don't tell yourself how you are. Just tell yourself that your system is running in a particular tendency in a particular way. It's important. It'll make more sense later. Controlled exposure to the why. Now, similar to the obsessive education learning thing, yes, it's going to feel exciting on some level, morbidly exciting, at least, to learn about stuff that makes sense, that makes you feel seen for the first time. Try to control it. Like, doesn't mean set a timer and only do it once a day. It just means, like, try to leave some room in the day for yourself to do more than just learn. And if you're in the very beginning, you might not be doing much if you're just fucking laying in bed. So yeah, you have a lot of time. But even still, like, you can't just continue to eat knowledge. You have to digest it. So, like, try to give yourself some space, at least, whatever that looks like for you, to, like, if you learn some stuff, let it fucking absorb and digest. Don't just continue all day, every day, to just learn shit all the time and look for stuff. So you don't leave room for this knowledge to rest inside your body at all. Last thing I'll say about tools is don't fucking talk to your friends. There's so much bad advice on the internet, and for some reason we feel like a good, reliable chain of information is like, TikTok person, friend, you. Why does your friend know this thing? Oh, because they saw it on TikTok. No. It's not reliable at all. They might even be right, but they're probably not anywhere close to the whole truth. And even still, they're probably not right. And so don't talk about this. It's not that it has to be a secret, but it's like, you don't need external inputs. You're trying to figure out you. Just keep it to yourself and try to learn. And if you use a mentor or if you use somebody, make sure they fucking know what they're talking about. And don't bring anybody else into this. I mean, it can be tempting to want to bring your parents or your friends or your siblings into it. Don't bring them into it. It's not their life. They don't understand this kind of stuff. They don't have this experience. They're not going to relate to you. They're just going to give you what seems like or feels like good advice, but it's not good advice for you. Keep it to yourself and just make this a personal discovery. That's the last big tool I have. Okay, the gift to learning about trauma is you get clarity. Obviously, the more you learn, you bring language to your prison walls, but you shift the blame. Now, because you kind of know, the more you learn, the more you realize it's not your fault that your life has been, like, destroyed up until now. It's like the blame, if you want to blame somebody, just blame your system. Like, the system doesn't have a fucking personality. It's just the way that your body and brain work. And so blame the system. It's like, yes, it's hard to actually, maybe don't blame the system, because the system kept you alive when it was necessary. Maybe you could blame the system for holding on to this and not having like a automatic shut off. That's what you could do. But the point is like, it's not your fault. And it's not the person or whatever the event's fault either. And it's really nobody's fault. But if you need it to be somebody's fault, let it be the system that never turned off. And that's a good thing, because that means it's not you that's broken. It's just the system is like dysfunctioning. So let's fix the system. That's the gift, is you shift the blame and you get the clarity. In closing, once you start connecting the dots, you find that you're not broken, you're just wired for war. First step is not to burn the whole system down because you're irritated or angry at it. It's to understand it. And this is the best part, is the more you understand, the more you learn and begin to realize that the same mind that trapped you then is the same mind that can fix you now. The same processes that kept you stuck in this survival mechanism, the same powerful engine that saved you from a traumatic event, is the exact same engine that can rewire itself and send you towards freedom. Okay, that's trauma education. The next video is going to be honesty. Again, we're still staying in this frame of cognitive perception, the beginning of a recovery process. And so honesty is going to be the thing that also begins to create separation with the ego. Remember, all these things, they can do it on their own, or you can be a combo of all of them, whether it's rock bottom moments, psychedelics, introspection, honesty, and we'll keep going. There's a couple more to this series, but all these things can lead you to that crack, that pre, during, and post-crack moment where all of a sudden you shift and realize there's a recovery path even there for you to walk. Okay, reach out to me, Instagram at Uncle Sam Fit, F-I-T, comment on the YouTube, fucking message me. I don't care how you find me. Look, this is the deal, is that I have created a structure that I will continue to talk about on YouTube. You can find a lot of it on Instagram and TikTok, but I have created this structure and I have mapped out how you can take anybody from any phase of the whole healing journey, no matter what the traumatic event is, no matter what the addiction is, and with willingness. That's the only thing you need to bring to the table, is the willingness to try. Because I can take anybody from any point and get you as far as you want, if not the whole way through. I've got the personal experience, I have the tools, I figured out the strategies and all the methods necessary and when you're supposed to use them and how and what the answers to the questions are at each point. I've got it all dialed, and that's my coaching program. And so get in touch with me if you want to start. I have many different levels to this, so I can take you however deep you want to go and however far you want to go, we will get there. So reach out on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, DM me, coach. We'll fit you in, we'll get you in the right direction, and you've got the fucking best resource you could ever need, which is somebody who doesn't care if I'm right. I just know how this shit works because I already fucking did it. Again, that is trauma education. See you guys in the next video.